Welcome to Anderson Speaks and Happy New Year to you. I'm Dick Murgatroyd sitting in for Kyle Densler, and I thank you for watching the show. On this edition of Anderson Speaks, we have two really terrific guests, so I hope you'll stay with us for the entire show. Our first guest is Justin Carabello with an informative segment about coffee, a lot of things that you probably never thought about or ever heard about coffee. And Dr. Matthew Nussey, who's going to talk to us about chiropractic medicine. So sit back, relax, and we'll meet our first guest right now.
Yeah, maybe they want to brew a pot of coffee.
We could do. They could do that.
Why not?
Well, they could go out and brew a pot of coffee. Justin Carabello, welcome to
Thank
Anderson
you.
Speaks.
It's really glad to. It's really nice to be here. So happy.
Yeah, well,
Thank
you know,
you.
I'm excited about it because I looked at your website and I was fascinated. I'm fascinated about how you got started in this particular thing and from where you came.
Yeah.
And then and then all of the information that I had no idea existed about coffee.
Yeah, it's really crazy. You know, I was just let's say for a long time your typical coffee drinker. I mean, you know, get up in the morning, make a pot of coffee. I mean, that was just part of my life. And then you know, I got into your Starbucks stuff, and you know, okay, this is a little bit better. I like this. And then one time, about 5 years ago, my wife and I had some friends over for dinner, and this guy shows up with this little bag, just like a plastic bag of coffee, and he says he had roasted it in a hot air popcorn popper. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, yeah, I roasted this in a hot air popcorn popper. He bought the coffee raw, or green as we call it. And I thought, honestly, I'm thinking to myself, this isn't going to be any good. But he was like, well, let's make it after dinner. So I thought, okay, all right, we'll try this. Well, to my surprise, it was not just marginally better than what I was paying good money for. It was really good. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. How did I not know that you could do this? You know, and we started talking about it. And my wife, you know, she's looking at it from a budgetary standpoint, and she sees like, oh my gosh, you could cut your costs in more than half, and drink better coffee by just doing this as a hobby at home. You go to your local thrift store, buy a you know, little old hot air popcorn popper, get some green coffee. There are businesses and websites that, you know, specialize in that, and boom, before you know it, you're roasting some great coffee. So I did, and I really got into it and learning all about it. And what was the most fascinating to me, Mr. Murgatroyd, was that before the Industrial Revolution, it was the only way you drank roasted coffee was to go to the local mercantile, grocer, general store, buy it in its raw state, bring it home, and they had these little contraptions you put on your potbelly stove or your wood fire stove, fit over your hole there, and it would have like a cylinder that would rotate and a hand crank, and you put your beans in, and you would roast your beans like you would roast anything, like you'd roast a pine nut or you'd roast pecans, you know. You would roast your coffee, and then you would hand grind it in your hand grinder, and you would prepare it. And this was common. This was normal. This is what everyone did until Jabez Burns comes along. Industrial Revolution says, oh, wow, I could do this on a massive scale. And they start selling the idea of convenience to the general public. Hey, quit messing with roasting your own coffee. We're doing it for you. We put it in this can. Here you go. Presto. There, you don't have to worry about it anymore. And we bought in to what became known as, you know, your conventional supermarket brand kind of coffee.
Well, then it had kind of, coffee's kind of had an interesting history, because then they went from coffee,
right?
The coffee that we all know, and then suddenly, you know, it became very popular to drink, you know, a lot
like fancy,
I don't understand
espresso-based drinks.
Yeah, all the fancier coffees, and now that's dominant. I mean, everywhere you go, and every restaurant has come up with some new form or some new type of coffee, and then they add all the other stuff, the whipped cream and all the, you know, the non-fattening things that they put in it. So it's interesting how coffee has And now you're kind of back to the original.
Yeah.
Back to the original coffee as such.
Right. Well, you know what's really interesting is, you know, you mentioned what we would call espresso culture. You know, this, let's just say, you know, Starbucks really brought espresso culture to the United States in a certain regard. Like if you go to Italy, and have you been to Italy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You go to Italy, you've seen this. It's normal. You walk in a cafe, people are standing up, they're not even sitting down, and they're just getting their little demi-tasse of espresso. Boop, you know, two swigs, it's gone.
Yeah.
They have a short conversation, and they move on. That is normal, everyday people drinking coffee in Italy, and everything's espresso-based, cappuccinos, your lattes. And Starbucks succeeded in bringing that culture really to America. But being Americans, loving sugar, loving Biggie-sized everything, they had to make some changes along the way in order to really genuinely sell that to the public. You know, I mean, so we started creating our own versions of drinks. You know, and you know, you start, like you said, you start all of a sudden adding this flavoring and this thing and whipped cream and this, and now we're blending them, and you know, everything's, you know, 12 ounces, 16 ounces, 20 ounces. It is really fascinating how that's happened, and yeah, our company, you know, we're actually going a little bit backwards. We're taking people back to, hey, let's slow this down. Let's stop a second. Let's go back to its roots and almost like rediscover it, because it has gotten a little crazy.
Yeah.
In a certain regard.
You know.
But in a good way, it has opened up a lot of people to a coffee experience that they otherwise wouldn't have had.
Yeah, true, and there's and highly competitive, because every kind of restaurant, fast food, whatever,
Right.
all have made that as you say, the espresso coffee. I mean, that's a big deal, and they all tout which one's better than the other, and
Right.
and they all now are selling. Also, they sell coffee in some of those places. I mean, in the bags that you can take home, that and brew yourself at home.
Well, you know what I didn't know until I really got into this is that coffee is the number 2 traded commodity on the entire planet, next to crude oil.
I can believe that.
Coffee is, the world over, the most like popular thing to drink outside of water.
Yeah.
It's a tremendously huge industry that entire nations depend on for their livelihood. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, coffee is not a fad. It has fads. We're experiencing maybe some even right now. But as a beverage, I mean, it's been around for a long time, and it's not going anywhere. And it's a really important part of the global economy. So, you know, it makes sense that all these restaurants, like you say, and fast food chains, and you know, everyone's vying for a slice of that pie.
Absolutely.
Because it's a big pie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's huge. You and your wife did not start out as entrepreneurs. I mean, you started out as, teachers?
Yeah, by trade, I'm a band director, and my wife is an art teacher. Yeah.
But that one little incident with the guy that brought the coffee to you was what got you going.
Yeah, for me personally, I have never really had hobbies, but I love to cook. I love process. I love the creative process and discovery that goes along with all that. And so somehow I just kind of got into this coffee thing, but I really didn't have any aspirations of it turning into a business. And then, you know, I love teaching. I was teaching at Miami Valley Christian Academy in Newtown, the band director, having a great time with the kids, love the kids. And my wife and I were actually on a plane ride, headed to visit my family, and I was just reading a Time magazine article on the plight of coffee farmers in the third world for the small guy. we all think of Juan Valdez, this small guy up there in the mountains with his little 1.5 acre farm, and how the fair trade movement really isn't all that fair for the small guy. And I'm just reading this, and all of a sudden, bam, I get this kind of flash vision, like in my mind, what if we could start a coffee roasting business that would be philanthropic and that would equitably source coffee from the Juan Valdez guys of the world, pay them a fair price, like a genuinely fair price, bring it to the U.S., roast it, give people a great product that they really genuinely love, and then take the profits and put them into works of compassion in coffee producing communities in the third world. I'm sitting on an airplane, boom. So I turned to my wife and I said about that much. And she's like, yeah, you're a band director, I'm an art teacher. That's a great idea, but I don't think we're going to start a coffee roasting business. And I mean, I had to agree with her. Yeah, I mean, it's not like when you're thinking of businesses to start, how do you start a coffee roasting business? I mean, it's not one that you just, yeah, and so it was one of those things that it just kind of wouldn't go away. And, my wife and I are praying people, and I'm just mulling this over, and I'm feeling like, I just really believe like God put this in my heart to do it. We had been supporting an orphanage in Nicaragua, a part of that, and just by nature are involved in giving and missional kind of things. And I just thought, you know what, the only thing I know to do is let's just take one step in this direction and see what happens. And so my parents actually bought us this $300 1-pound coffee roaster. Looks like in-home coffee roaster. Looks like a toaster oven. And I sent an email out to all my friends and the people at the school and community, just everyone I knew. I said, look, here's my crazy idea. I'm gonna roast this coffee, and we'll sell it, and we're gonna take all the profits and we're gonna give it to this orphanage in Nicaragua. It was November 1st, 2009, and to my surprise, people wrote me back and said, I'd love to try some. And so I thought, great. So there I am. I'm living in Falmouth, Kentucky, out in the boonies on 12 acres. I've got this little 1-pound roaster. I'm standing outside out of my garage, and with just this little roaster, and 15-minute increments, you're just roasting this coffee. And it just was one of those things, little by little, I just had more orders, and we started getting to a place after about 6 months, 9 months, I'm out there doing this 15 hours a weekend, and it's starting to, it's starting to really become something. And yeah, we were just like, wow, what are we going to do? Because it's unsustainable to keep doing this with this 1-pound thing. And, so we had those points along the way where we really genuinely stopped and said, okay, should we really be doing this? I mean, like I said, I love teaching. But then, on the other hand, we make a trip to Central America. We went three-week trip to Central America. Went to El Salvador, went to our first coffee farm there, went to Nicaragua, spent a week with these kids at the orphanage, went to a few more coffee farms, went to Costa Rica. And when I was able to walk into that orphanage and see these kids and realize, 18 of them have been rescued out of this garbage dump, didn't have a life till some folks came along and said, we got to do something. Here they are going to school in a loving environment, being nurtured, finally having a chance to dream. And I'm looking at this and saying, wait a second, you mean I'm able to help these kids because people in places like Anderson Township, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky say, hey, yeah, I love coffee. I'll drink your coffee. It's good. And you're going to take the money and you're going to help these kids? No brainer. And I started realizing, this is pretty cool. I mean, it was extremely rewarding to realize we really could give somebody something they're already going to spend money on. They're already spending X in their budget.
Oh, sure.
But do it in a way, like I said, buying ethically sourced coffee, because there's a lot of coffee that's not ethically sourced. There's a lot of people ripping off, these third world farmer guys. Source it equitably, roast it well, and then do something good with it. So we realized, I think we've got something here, and we shouldn't just bail because it's starting to get, you have those times where it's like, this is getting hard. What are we going to do?
It worked out. I mean, so you left teaching and you are doing this full time?
So what happened, really cool, we talk about, Anderson Township and Anderson connections. Well, what happened was 2011, I'm at Newtown Winterfest over in Newtown, and I meet Mike Persicano, who had a roasting company in Anderson called Coffee Underground. And he was roasting in Newtown, and he's there just, giving out free cups of coffee, and we got talking, and we were talking about roasting, and I started telling him what I'm thinking and, what we're doing, and he said, man, I'd love to just, talk to you some more. Why don't you come over someday when I'm roasting, and we'll just hang out. So I thought, cool, a real coffee roaster, it's like meeting a rock star, right? So I go over there, and just I'm hanging out with him, and he said, you know what? I really like your vision and your passion and what you want to do. I only use my roaster 3 days a week. So what do you think about you renting my roaster? Share it. I'll train you how to use it. And, that gives you the opportunity to grow your business without laying out the capital for a brand spanking new machine. Because, coffee roasters are not cheap.
No.
And I was blown away. I was like, are you kidding me? Who does that? And I was really taken back by it. But he said, honestly, yeah, I just love what you want to do. And so that really allowed us to go to the next level. That was the first summer that we were then able to participate in the Anderson Township Farmers Market here. It gave us, his roaster was, I could do 12 pounds in 15 minutes versus 1 pound.
Yeah.
So the growth potential it felt exponential, and it really made it possible for us to say, okay, we can take this to the next level, which really was going out and beginning to sell our coffee in stores or, restaurants, wholesale accounts, farmers markets, that kind of thing, and really building relationships with people around Cincinnati. So that was like kind of the next step, was I got my hands on a legit roaster. And then later that summer, he surprised me again and said, you know what? The coffee prices had spiked, and it really just caused a lot of roasters to get pinched. And he said, man, I think I'm just going to actually get out of the business myself.
Wow.
And he actually decided to take a job with Green Mountain Coffee Roasters in Knoxville, Tennessee. Great company. He was like, I just want to roast coffee. I don't want to be a businessman. I don't want to grow a business. I don't have the passion that you have for it, but I'll sell you my roaster. He gave me a really great price. He said, you know what? I'll even let you pay it off in a year, 4 installments, no interest. That way you don't have to lay out a lot of money. And again, it was just one of those moments where oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so we found a cafe in Florence, Kentucky called Velocity Bike and Bean. And they said, hey, why don't you put the roaster in here, rent 100 square feet from us, we'll build it out, and you can be our coffee roaster. You needed a place to put it. We want to have coffee in here. And it was again, this next phase. And honestly, Mr. Murgatroyd, our story has been, it's these crazy things every step of the way. It's relationships that all of a sudden show up, and we're just oh my gosh, this is actually happening. And I used to kind of say to my wife in the beginning, and we had this running joke in our family, will I ever be a real coffee roaster? Am I ever going to really be a real coffee roaster? And and we used to just laugh about it. And I kind of look back at it now, and I'm like, I'm a real coffee roaster, man.
You made it. You made it.
It's kind of crazy.
What a great story. I mean, it's a great story. I mean, from the standpoint, just that the fact that how you got it, how you started, and that's what really entrepreneurs. That's where they come from.
Yeah.
They start out at
crazy.
with an idea and a vision, and then you gotta stay with it. You gotta believe in it. You gotta have the passion for it. I think that's the key, and that's why a lot of them don't make it, because they don't have the fire in their belly, so to speak, and because you just gotta keep pushing ahead. But it worked for you. It's an exciting
So far,
story.
it's working.
Yeah, I think it's great. Now, how
Thank
can
you.
people find out more about you? You have a website?
Our website is carabellocoffee.com, and I'm happy to say that we've been a part of the Anderson Township Farmers Market for the last 3 years, which has been phenomenal. And our coffee's also available around town at specialty stores and restaurants. It's been awesome. And we're
Good
at the
deal.
Anderson Farmers Market every season.
Very good. Well, listen, we appreciate it. I'm glad you came and shared the story with us. We could probably talk about another hour.
Sure.
I think.
Well,
about,
I know I
about
could.
Your story.
I get fired up. I'm sorry.
You
if
are.
I
I
went
mean,
too
but that's
far.
what's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's super. I mean, I think it's exciting, and you make it exciting. So thank you for joining us on
Thank
this
you.
edition of Anderson Speaks, and hopefully we'll have you back again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank
Justin
you.
Carabello. And coming up next, we will be meeting Dr. Matthew Nussey right after this message. So don't go away. Welcome back to Anderson Speaks. I'm Dick Murgatroyd, sitting in for Kyle Densler. And our next guest is Dr. Matthew Nussey. And we're looking forward to hearing from him about his work in chiropractic medicine. Dr. Nussey, it's good to have you here. And welcome back. I understand you're back home, or at least back to where your roots were, from Chicago, and have been here for the last, what, did you say 8 months or so? in the area?
8-ish months. Yeah, we moved back about 8 months ago.
How did you, what made you get interested in the chiropractic field?
Right. Kind of a funny story. I had what is in the industry called a healing, meaning I was lucky enough to actually be taken to a chiropractor pretty early in my life. I was 10, 11, 12 years old. I always had pretty significant headaches or migraines, so that's why I originally got taken in by my mother. Through the work that the chiropractor that I had did, the headaches cleared up. Obviously, I mean, people generally know that chiropractors are pretty good with back pain and headaches and those type of things, but the other health issue that I had was a pretty significant one. I had really bad asthma. Really difficult time with it. I was hospitalized a few times. Like it was kind of getting into dire straits. I wasn't taken to the chiropractor for my asthma, but lo and behold, my asthma started clearing up the more I kind of got through the treatment. And everybody is surprised. I am, my mother. I don't know how actually surprised I am. I'm young, but I know that I'm getting better. And my mother is obviously pretty surprised or shocked about it. Happy, obviously, but it wasn't until later that I really realized that there's a lot more health benefits to chiropractic and the work on neurology that chiropractors do, and the work on the body and how it functions. And if you can get it functioning correctly, then a lot of health disorders can kind of go away on their own. So that kind of, I guess, planted the seed. And then, I'm growing up, and I ended up going to University of Cincinnati, and I'm a biology major, and I'm looking at the different health fields, and it's always kind of in the back of my head, and I take a trip up to Chicago, visit the school up there, take a tour, hear kind of what it's all about, and just kind of fell in love with the program, and I like the ability to kind of set my own schedule, run my own business, practice in the way that I want to. So I mean, I love it, and I'm I couldn't be happier with the decision. So
Good, good. Yeah, chiropractic medicine is kind of a lot of people I don't think understand it. I think, and there's a lot of different, myths out there, I think, about it. And I guess, are there specialties? Do chiropractors kind of specialize in particular areas, or are they pretty general in the kinds of things that they do?
right, it can kind of go either way. Chiropractic at its core is not about making people feel a little bit better. You have an ache or pain, and well, we'll make it go away, and then you're good to go. Chiropractic at its core is about making people as healthy as they can possibly be. What I do is, yes, I'm good at treating back pain and neck pain and headaches, the traditional stuff that people go to chiropractors for, but I do a lot of what's called functional medicine. So I do a lot of adjunct testing. I do a lot of hormone testing. The hormones in your body control almost every function in your body, and if there's an imbalance, things like digestion can break down, causes high blood pressure, sleep disturbance and energy problems, all different kinds of problems. So I do a lot of testing, and then dietary supplementation for hormonal problems. And I also do a heavy metal or a chemical detox. A lot of people, we come in contact with a lot of chemicals, a lot more than the body is supposed to, because 10,000 years ago we didn't have all of these chemicals bombarding us. Lotions, perfumes, even the foods and water that we eat all have chemicals in them. These can build up in the body. So I do a detox for that. That's really good for weight loss. And it's not, it's not just, you want to lose 20 pounds to go look good on the beach, but it's the person that comes into me and says, and this is the typical scenario, they come in and say, I'm working out, I'm eating, the best that I can, and I still just can't lose this little bit of weight. It's like 10 or 15 pounds. If I get through, yes, you actually are working out correctly, like I determine that you're eating correctly and you're working out correctly, and I test for this chemical toxicity, and it's actually a detox that I give you, and you go through that, usually your body can actually start running efficiently and correctly, and you can lose that little bit of extra weight that you have. So yeah, I do a few different things. There's, you can be very general and very straightforward as far as orthopedics and the biomechanical neurologic issues. I do a lot of that. I just incorporate some other adjunct therapies.
So it's a lot more comprehensive than I think most people think. I think most people always talk chiropractor when, as you said, when they've got back pain or they've got something like that. But you really, there is much more to it than that. What should somebody, if somebody's thinking about and needing a chiropractor, what should they, how should they go about finding one, number one, and I guess how do they know if that's really what they need to do?
A lot of times it is, a lot of times the patients that we see as chiropractors are patients that have gone through the gamut of other health care. They just can't seem to get a handle on, they've got nagging back pain that they're taking medication for, or they're just about to have surgery, or something along those lines. What's important to remember is that it's much easier to address health problems very, very early on, before they get significantly worse, before you need surgery, or before even things like you have a stroke or a heart attack, because of cardiovascular issues or high blood pressure. So if you can get to somebody early and kind of address very simple problems, you can save yourself a lot of grief later on. And chiropractors are good at that because, again, what we're doing, even through the adjustment process, the manipulation of the spine, is we can actually make the nervous system run as optimally as possible. Now, the nervous system, obviously people know about pinched nerves and how that'll cause pain and sciatica and that type of thing, but pinched nerves can be nerves that actually cause function to different areas of the body. They make your heart beat, they make your lungs contract so you can breathe, et cetera, et cetera. You can get pinches on those type of nerves as well. So a chiropractor can be good treating a gamut of health conditions. We're not actually trying to treat high blood pressure, we're not trying to treat asthma, but we're trying to make you as healthy as possible, and a lot of times those type of things will go away.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if they're looking for a chiropractor, I mean, is there what criteria should they look for? Or I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's just word of mouth that people will recommend somebody that they go to. And I know I've had friends that I mean, they went to their chiropractor on a regular basis. I mean, but many of those were the people that had back issues and that they just constantly needed, to rework whatever the problem was. So, I mean, is there any criteria they should think about and when they're choosing a chiropractor?
I would say, well, I mean, obviously, what I do. My philosophy is a pretty common one of trying to get people as well as possible. But I would say look at their website. You'll be able to tell through somebody's website and the information about them what specifically they're geared towards treating. Maybe they do just treat back pain, and if you're having another issue, might not be the person for you.
Right.
But it'll list the different services they have.
Oh, okay.
Like for instance, I'm doing chiropractic. I'm treating the back pains and those kind of problems. But then I'm also doing what's called functional medicine, which is the adjunct services that I talked about. So all that is laid out, very concisely on the services page of my website. And I've seen plenty of other chiropractors' web pages. And if you go to their services pages, it'll kind of
Give you an idea of what kind of things they do. I guess you're back in this area, and I know you're involved in Anderson because you're involved in the chamber. We talked a little bit about that.
Right.
What are some of the things that in the area that you're doing that's especially in I'm sure you're glad to be back out of the weather in Chicago.
Yeah.
But what kind of things are you doing with the chamber?
Well, I'm a member of the chamber. That's one of the first things I did when I came back and figured this is where I was setting up my business in Newtown. First thing I did was join the chamber. I've done a few things through the Chamber of Commerce. This being one, I've done ACTV a few times. I volunteer about 5 hours a week with a national nonprofit. It's called the Foundation for Wellness Professionals. Basically, what we do is disease screenings and disease prevention lectures to the public, so public information about health. So through Anderson Township, I've actually been able to do some screenings, like at the party on the plaza that they had a few times back. We were there doing blood pressure and stress screenings, and so I've done a lot through the Anderson Chamber of Commerce so far, and I've done a lot of events, screening events, and things like that. So yeah.
And your practice serves really the greater Anderson area anyway, I would imagine.
Pretty much all of Anderson. I see a lot of people from Marymount. A lot of people drive a pretty good distance to get to my office, again, because I'm doing some very kind of unique, I would say, treatments that others may not offer. But yeah, Marymount, Anderson, Newtown, Mount Washington, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned sleep. Is that, a lot of people you hear talk about sleep issues. Is that something you can help with or you can deal with?
For sure. If you come into my office and I test you and you have something wrong with you, a hormone issue that I'm testing for, the chemical toxicity that I'm testing for, anything wrong biomechanically, meaning something's wrong with your spine or neurology, I'm checking your reflexes, I'm checking your strength and seeing if everything neurologically is okay. Sleep is when you heal. It's when your body revitalizes itself. People that don't sleep well, that are waking up multiple times at night, that can't fall asleep, that wake up too early, can't get back to sleep and are not rested, they're not healthy people, generally speaking. Your body just starts to break down. This could be because they're uncomfortable when they sleep, because they have too much stress and their mind is racing. It could be for a variety of health reasons, but if we can correct some of the underlying issues, then again, a lot of these other health issues that people think are primary, like blood pressure, difficulty sleeping, digestive problems a lot, they can kind of go away if we get people healthy. So sleep is, I don't want to say a no-brainer. It's an easy fix and things like that, but it's, I very commonly get people to be able to fall asleep more quickly, to be able to stay asleep, to feel rested when they wake up, to need less. I know the guest before was selling coffee, but to need less coffee, to need less energy shots and that kind of thing to be able to get through their day. So yeah, I mean it's a complex process, but I'm testing for some very basic things, and if you've got it, I'm treating it, and then we kind of see what happens going forward.
Yeah. Okay, because I think that's an issue that a lot of people suffer from. I mean, they don't get a good night's restful sleep, at night, and I think I work all night in my sleep because I get up in the morning, I'm probably as tired
That's right.
as I was when I went to bed because my mind is still, in fact, I'm one of those people that gets up in the middle of the night because something comes to mind and I think about, oh, gee, I forgot to do that. I go in the computer, sit down, and
there you go,
and do maybe an hour's worth of whatever, and then I go back to bed and half doze off. So
yeah,
I'm probably one of those victims of.
Some of that's, we live in a high-paced, fast, moving society, so some of that stuff is just kind of the way it is. Some of it isn't. Some of it is actually your health, starting to break down.
Yeah.
So, there's a way to test for it and to determine if you need something done or not. So
That's comforting to know. That's good. That's a good thing. I have to look into that.
okay,
I understand you've got a new book coming out.
I do.
This first one.
It is.
What's it about?
The title of it is Believe in You, Health and Wellness versus the World in Which We Live. It is about, it's kind of a two-phase approach at looking at health, wellness, fitness. Part of it's motivational, getting people to understand why health is important, why it's easier, again, to stay healthy, become healthy, than to wait till later in life. We have this reactionary healthcare system where we just wait and wait and wait, and then something goes wrong, and then we react to it. We go to the hospital. We go through very drastic measures to restore our health. So part of it is getting people to realize that health is important, and why they should stay healthy. And then part of it is kind of a blueprint, a step-by-step guide on what you actually can and should be doing from a dietary standpoint, from an activity and exercise standpoint. There's a lot of what I like to call industry garbage in health and fitness and wellness. It's a billion dollar business, the health and wellness and fitness industry.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
take this pill, and then tomorrow you look like a supermodel, or all you need is this machine. Use this and you get six-pack abs. You look like the guy that's on the commercial. A lot of it, there's a lot of garbage. So I try to wade through that for the consumer. I try to wade through that and say, well, this can be helpful if used appropriately in this scenario, and this is really you should avoid, and that kind of thing. So it's kind of part motivational, part educational about health, fitness, and wellness, and then part is if you do this, these are the outcomes you can expect. If you don't do this, these are the outcomes you can expect. So, yeah, I'm excited about it.
So, and the name of it is?
The title is Believe in You, Health and Wellness versus the World in Which We Live. So,
And it's going to be out this January. Is it? Or?
Yeah, well, my editor just said I'm not the most grammatically correct writer, so it needs some editing at this point. So, beginning of next year, sometime, February-ish maybe.
2014.
For sure. Yeah. No, I've been working on it now 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a process.
A work in progress.
Yeah, because I'm learning all the time. Seminars and through my practice I learn a lot about patients and so on. So I've kind of been using the knowledge that I've been gaining to kind of get this project going, since basically I started in practice.
Yeah. I guess probably a lot of people, part of the problem is that everybody's in a hurry. I mean, they want a quick fix.
Yep.
So when something's wrong, they they want to come in and say, okay, fix it fast because I don't have time and I don't want to do a lot of things to have to do it. I mean, is that the part of the problem? Is probably people won't really take the time
Yeah.
to do the things they need to do to make themselves well.
Yep.
I mean, so that's a challenge because I think we take a pill and we expect a miracle to happen. And as you said, you got all this stuff on TV that these people that are promoting these, machines and of course they find somebody that looks like a model
Right.
that none of us look like,
Right.
and that machine couldn't make look like that in a million years.
I haven't met one person yet that looks like that.
Well, that's true, but the thing is, I think that's part of the problem we have is in our society we're in a hurry. We don't want to take time to go through what it takes to get well. How do you deal with that? I mean,
You're 100% right, and that's conditioned into people in America, in American society, in modern day society. It's conditioned into people to think that you can do something as quick as possible and it'll solve the problem. There are some very basic truths about being well, being fit, being healthy, however you want to put it, about health. There's some very basic truths, and one of them is that you get out of it really what you put into it. There are some shortcuts. There are some ways to kind of trick the body into running more efficiently. There are some products that can be used that are good. There are some machines that can be used that are good. We get into this mentality because of marketing, because all these companies that are selling these products are good at marketing. That's why they sell their products.
They spend a ton of money doing it.
We get into this mentality that we can rely on one thing. We can just rely on one thing. It makes our minds at ease. It puts our mind at ease to think that, well, we're doing something. We're doing something that
Sure.
that is benefiting our health. Again, going back to my book, what I'm trying to do is, for lack of a better term, smack people in the back of the head and say, wake up. Some of this stuff can be useful, but if you're putting all your eggs in one basket, if you're using a diet pill, if you're using X, Y, or Z machine, and that's it, you can expect to have no results. You're setting yourself up for failure, and that leads to a really vicious cycle. People think they're doing something for their health. They don't get the success that they see on the commercial. They think now, I can't do anything about it. I'm doomed to be out of shape or unhealthy or whatever the case may be, and it demoralizes them, and then they end up giving up because going into it, they didn't have a good strategy. They didn't have a good plan. So
I would think that would be frustrating for you when you have people come in and that what they need to do, but they don't follow what you ask them to do. It's got to be frustrating for you as a chiropractor to say, geez, I can help you if you just let me. That has to be tough, and because again, if it looks like a lot of work, people just say, I haven't got time to do that, and won't make me better anyways.
Yeah, true. Yeah, all of what you just said, I hear on a regular basis. It is frustrating. It's frustrating to see people not care about the number one commodity that they have. I mean, more important than money, more important than family or anything is
absolutely.
If you're not healthy, if you're dead, you can't enjoy anything.
No, that's
so,
right. That's
so
right.
People to not value their number one commodity, their health, is frustrating. On the flip side, how I practice is I don't keep people in my practice that I can't get on board with what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is, if you're sick, I'm trying to change your life. If you're hurting, I'm trying to change your life. If I can't get you on board, and a lot of what I do is education. This is why you should do it. These are the reasons that, this is why it'll help. This is the outcomes we can expect. A lot of what I'm doing is education. But if I can't get you on board, then I'm not going to set both of us up again for failure. I'm not going to let the patient fail in a program that I'm taking him through. I'm not going to waste anybody's money or time or any of that kind of stuff. But if you're on board, I go full steam ahead with you, and usually we can, if I think we can get the job done and I can get the patient on board, man, it can be a special thing.
Well, I mean, it is. It's great, and as you said, it's the most important investment we can make, and that's in our health, and it's the one thing we probably ignore more than anything else, and everything else seems to be more important.
True.
But I think there's a point where if you can get through to them, good for you.
And
Yeah.
you can't. I mean, sometimes it takes a little beating over the head, to a degree. A lot of people again are stuck in a pattern that's just not working for them, and I have to change that pattern. Change is difficult, so it takes sometimes a little bit of convincing. But again, I've been getting good at this. I've been doing this for 10 years now, so. Really, if I can communicate appropriately and properly about what could be as far as somebody's health or wellness, usually I can.
Good for you. Well, don't give up. But I think that because everybody wants immediate, and what most people problems are not immediately fixed. So
True.
Thank you for your patience.
No problem. No problem.
And I wish you luck on your book.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope everything turns out well. But it's been a real pleasure talking with you and enjoyed it. I
You as
learned
well.
a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Hope we see you again.
I hope so too.
For sure. We thank you all. We want to thank all of our guests. We want to thank Justin Carabello and, of course, Dr. Matthew Nussey for being with us. And also thank our producer, Nikki Bishop, and our director, Andy Crozier, for the great job they always do. And a special thanks to you for taking time out of your day to join us here for Anderson Speaks. I hope you will always make us part of your day. In the meantime, I'm Dick Murgatroyd sitting in for Kyle Dinsler. And until next time, enjoy your day, and I hope that your new year will be a happy, healthy, especially healthy, and prosperous one. Thanks.